Hey, hey, hey. Good
Hey,
afternoon.
how
How
are
you
you
doing?
today?
I'm doing good. I'm going to turn down my volume just a little bit so I can hear you pretty good. Oh, happy Sunday. I'm geeked
Happy
about
Sunday.
today.
It's November
So,
1st.
let's talk. First of all, I don't know. Are you in Southfield right now? Where
Yes,
you
I
at?
am
Did
in
you see the
Southfield,
snow?
Michigan. Yes, yes, I did.
Did it make you as sad as it made me?
No, no, not at all. Right. I
Well,
could
guess
do
what? I'm
without it.
depressed.
Really. Right.
I'm I'm not ready. I'm not
Okay.
ready.
Oh
I'm not
yeah, you
ready.
gotta be. I think the faster you get over with, the faster we can get past this COVID pandemic. Hopefully.
Ah, you're right. I
So,
need let me change. Let me start over. Let me change my attitude. Here I go. Here I am. Hello, everyone. Welcome to YouTube Sundays. Listen, I'm really excited about today's episode because I'm talking to somebody from my hometown, from Ecorse, Michigan. I'm talking to Dr. Teronto Robinson, and we're going to get real today about wow, what I should have called this episode. And what I should have called this episode today, we were laughing about this, was I really should have called this the Reformed Underachievers episode. That's what I should have called it because
Yes.
just in talking about both of our roads, where we are today, where we started, I realized that there are probably a lot of people out there who make assumptions about where you are in your life based on or how you have come about your life based on where you are today. And man, it's all garbage. So we're here to give them the real today. So welcome, Toronto. I'm glad to have you here today.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just jump right into it. I think this is very funny because we went to the same high school. You're a couple years older than me. I graduated
Yeah.
in 97. And
95.
95, class of
Mhm.
95, Red Raiders, hello.
Red Raiders.
Um, so I think it's really funny because a few years ago, I know you'll remember this. I hope you'll remember this, and it's not like me in my head. But I was at the VA with my dad, and I
Hmm.
saw you there, and I was like, "What you doing here?" And you was like, "I'm a doctor," and I was like, "What?
Right.
What?" And I
Yeah.
loved that because I didn't know anybody personally who grew up where we grew up, who came out of the same school system, and who was a doctor. So let's
Hmm.
talk about the underachievers reformed, okay? Reformed underachievers club. And let's talk about how you got there because I watched a commencement speech, a student commencement speech that you gave to the students, I should say, at
Yeah.
Ecorse High School last year. And I loved it because I was one of those persons that made a lot of assumptions about people based on where they are today. And to hear you talk about what your experience was like from high school, then to college, and now as an MD, I loved that story because I people didn't know this, but I almost didn't graduate. My grades were so bad. I remember being so stressed out senior year, and it was like my
Yeah.
mom and dad had no idea what was going on. Wow, but that happened. So tell me about your journey. How did you get here, Dr. Robinson?
So, good. Yeah, we went to the same high school together, and my journey to becoming a doctor wasn't really as a smooth transition, as I thought it would. It should have been, and
Yeah.
most people expect it to be, and the ideas you have for a lot of doctors, I wish I didn't fit that category for the most part. When I left high school, I had like a 2.24 GPA. Right, right, and
Mhm,
uh,
mhm.
and it wasn't too many options for me. What I wanted to do. I played sport, so I always thought I was going to go to the college and play football, or I would go to the NBA until I realized that I wasn't tall enough for the NBA, and I didn't get the scholarships needed to go to the next level. Even if I went to the next level to play for a big school like Michigan and Michigan State, or even the other Big Ten schools, I didn't have the grades to sustain or the discipline to sustain, to stay in college most likely.
Yeah.
And so my role was a lot of self reflection to what I wanted to do with myself. Um, and I think a lot of people, even even within the school system, they put stigmas on you based on who they think you are, and they don't really foster that. And so, but lucky for me, I had like my football coach, Vincent Parks. He kind of
Yeah.
gave us life lessons. James Cameron, he taught us a
Yeah.
lot about staying out the prison system.
Yeah.
Um, and I had a very strong family supportive base, pretty much, and that constantly encouraged going to school to get an education. Um, but what that entailed was it was very difficult to put together once I went into college.
Yeah.
So when I got to college, I really didn't know. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I had an aunt that was a nurse. I had a few people doing other things like accounting. My
Hmm.
cousin, he wanted to be an engineer. You hear about these things, and none of it was appealing to me. So I kind of just went just to be going to figure it out, and to figure
Yeah.
out what I wanted to do. I spent a few years in college, flopping around, and pretty much getting to the point where um, they just put me out of college at one point in time.
Mhm.
They was threatening, you didn't pass enough classes, or your GPA wasn't high enough. You had so many credit hours that you don't really sustain, and so I was getting threatened to put out of college. So lo and behold, I had to think back what I wanted to do with my life, what I wanted to do with myself. And during that time, I had this self reflection. Like I always wanted to be a doctor. If I couldn't be an NFL player, and that's like, and the only doctor I ever seen in life was Bill Cosby. Shout out to
Yeah.
Bill, free Bill Cosby. He was a big
Well, yeah, yeah.
influence.
Well, that's another different conversation for another day.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely is. But he left that imprint on me that
That's true. I
there
don't
could be
take that away
a
from
black
him.
male be a doctor. There was none in our neighborhood, as you know, and
Yeah.
it wasn't for people said in the cards for you to become a doctor coming from where we come from. It just didn't make sense. You either as a black male, you either find a job, you go to college maybe, right?
Mhm.
Or the alternative was the streets. And living off where I live, the streets was always waiting on me, with the friends I had, the connections that I knew, it was always
Mhm.
there. And that's something I didn't want to really tread down that path. So when I got to college, went through that time frame of what I wanted to do. Um, got to a point where, this kid talking about kicking me out, and I was at home, went to Wayne State University, laying in bed thinking like, well, if if this ends, um, what would happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, if I lose my family, I'd pretty much be homeless. And then that kind of woke me up. And once that woke me up, I kind of said what I wanted to do. Funny enough, I went to my counselor at Wayne State University, my academic counselor. They said, "No, what? You don't have the grades to be a doctor. You need to change your major." I'm like, wow. So I packed my stuff up and walked off the dinner like he don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. And I think luckily enough, coming from eCourse, it gave me a sense of pride, a sense of understanding how to hustle, how to be dedicated and stick through the night. Now, a lot of my friends, that I grew up with were drug dealers, right? And they'll sell dope all night. And I took that same mentality, said, well, they can
Mhm.
do this all night. I can study all night. And that kind of pushed me over the edge. And more I went down this path of becoming a doctor, um, more and more people got on board and gave a black man a helping hand. So they kind of helped,
Mhm.
like gave me advice, led me in the right direction. This is how you do this. This is what you want to do, and apply to medical school. And thanks to God rest his soul, Dr. Silas Norman, who was a mentor of mine also, kind of took me under his wing and brought me through the rest of the way. So
Yeah.
there you have it in a nutshell.
That mentorship is really important too. So I want to go back for a second because you said when you were younger, you thought in your mind, I might want to be a doctor. So I think that's fascinating for two reasons. Is that even though, like you said, what was going on around you, everything would point to you not wanting that career. like that seed was planted a long time ago, and then it was like automatic for you to jump to that when you knew that maybe the sports route wouldn't work for you. So how old were you when you were saying you wanted to be a doctor? And what kind
I
of
didn't,
doctor did you want to be? And then tell us what kind of practice you're in right now. What's your medical
so I
profession?
didn't know, like at the time you don't know what type of doctors. But I was in seventh grade, and I said I just want to be a doctor. I didn't know because you don't know about how broad this field of medicine is. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to be a doctor. But afterwards, that thought in my head was like, what do you want to do with yourself? And I
Yeah.
had no other career options, no other exposures that could say, well, this is what I want to do with some type of doctor.
Yeah. And so where were you at? How old were you? I'm assuming you were already in college because you had applied to medical school. What type of doctor did you say you wanted to be then? Because by
Oh,
then you've had some field, right, of perception of, oh, I can be a surgeon, I can do all of these things. What was it for you?
so yeah, I was having a discussion the other day. I never thought about what type of doctor. My whole world was just getting into medical school. That was the
Okay.
so I never thought of I want to be this type of doctor. Most people plan on that for the rest since day one. It was
Yeah.
never my thought. My thought was, just get in, just get in. Once you get in, and to do the best you can to get in. And so that's the only thing I had was
Mm.
that really. Not until I got into maybe my third year of medical school, I started thinking about different specialties that
Okay.
I wanted to do. And one thing I realized that I was really good with people, you know, directly with people. I can relate to people a lot. And even on when we call this thing called rotations, I would connect with people from different backgrounds. So wow, this is really, it really stood out to me that I was able to do these things, no matter if you're white, black,
Yeah.
Asian. I just had a connection with you. And I think it's just because where I come from. You know,
Yes.
I had a patient when I was in third year medical school, and I explained a diagnosis to him. He said, "No one ever told me this way, like you told me, and this is the first time I really understood what's going on." And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Wow," And he's been seeing this one doctor for a long period of time. He said he just never understood until I explained it to him. You made it so plain to me, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Wow!" And that was an age gap difference. I'm explaining this to a 50-year-old, and I'm 20 something.
Yeah.
29, 30 maybe. And it was like, wow. And that's why I kind of knew that I had a gift, and I ended up going to primary care,
Okay.
mostly preventing health and keeping people well. And I think
Yeah.
that's the best approach to most things that most people decide to go into these chronic disease fields.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to go back to something else that you just said, because we keep going back to where you came from, where you came
Yeah.
from. This wasn't expected of where you came from. And so I feel like very strongly that it would be not very honest for me to talk about how we could come from the same place, but very different. Very different. I think like the way
Mhm.
that we grew up was probably very different. And you were saying like you had people who were mentoring you and who were saying all of these things to you to really encourage you. But I was a failing student too. And I think because my home life was different, I think I was lucky enough, I was fortunate enough to have both of my mom and dad there. But I am telling you, they did not know what the hell was going on. They just didn't.
Right.
They did not know how, like, I'm serious. I remember I was not a good student. I was a
Hmm.
lazy student. And
Right.
nobody,
Right.
like, I didn't have a counselor that said to me, you need to get it together. I did not have a counselor that reached out to my mom and dad to say, something is going on. Because I think the assumption was I had parents who understood this stuff. Um, and I had two brothers before me, right?
Hmm.
So I think they thought, like, well, we know what Ennis did, we know what Andre did, and she
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be getting in any trouble. She must not need any help. But man, I did not know what I wanted to do with my life at all. And I'm telling you that when my friends were looking at colleges, I wasn't looking at all. It didn't occur to me that that would be something that would work for me. I knew that
Mhm.
I was going to go to Henry Ford. I always said for a very long time like that I wanted to write because it just came naturally to me. I love to read. I'm very imaginative. I can be a head in the clouds kind of person. I'm not saying that as a down to myself. I think that that is
Right.
a benefit to me that I'm optimistic in that way. Um, but I really had no clue. And for a very long time, I would say that I wanted to be a journalist, a traveling journalist. Like I knew that I wanted to travel. But it wasn't until I was almost 40 years old that I realized like that's not something that I ever wanted to do. I
Right.
wanted to travel. I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world, and I literally could not see another way for me to be able to do that, but for it to be a job.
Hmm.
And so I love that we're talking about how, mentorship was really important, and maybe things would have been different for me if I would have had some of that push in the front end. But man, I'm so glad that it came when it did because I was immature. I didn't
Right.
want to go away to school. I wanted to live under my mom and dad. I loved living with my mom and dad. I did not move out till I was 23 years old. Like a lot of people
Mhm.
don't know that. And I
Right.
only moved out then because they was getting on my nerves. you
Right.
know? Um, so talk about then what it means to you to be able to go back, because you went back in 2019 and you gave that powerful commencement speech to those students at ecourse high school. And I know that that was something that they needed to hear, but I'm sure that that was something that you needed to do too. So tell me what that was like.
So for me, it felt full circle for me because I remember when I graduated, sitting in the audience, and I said, "Man, I wish I was up there giving the
Hmm.
honor society commencement speech, whatever that was. During you the speech as the president or the honor society
Yeah.
member. And I also that should have been me. So I always had a confidence that I was very intelligent, that I can really do the things that I wanted to do. My coach, Vincent Parks, God rest his soul, he was always a big encourager about life and how you need to handle your business. I'll go back to
Mhm.
Coach Terry Thomas. They was always talking about handling your business in life and taking care of the things you need to take care of, and anything else don't need to be a distraction. And in Cameron, they always talked about life as a male. And I was the guy that I wouldn't cause a lot of trouble, but I'll listen, and I was always a listener. I'll always listen to what someone is saying, and I just stored it back in my mind. I took
Yeah.
everything that they told me, and I just applied it later in life. And I think that was very big to have that type of mentorship
Mhm.
to move forward. So going back to giving a commencement speech, uh, I like to think the superintendent at the time was Kenny Joe. Well, he's a principal at the time. Sorry, principal Kenny
Okay.
Joe. He all gave me a platform, and what I wanted to do was relay to them to be real honest about what it means, to be success. I hate to use that term in that type of stage, but to be successful and what does it take,
Yeah.
and um, and let them know that it's not always easy, and it's not always going to be roses. It's going to be
Yep.
pitfalls. It's going to be hard times. There's going to be a lot of denials. There's going to be a lot of rejection, but you have enough confidence and belief in yourself that you can do it. And one of the main things I try to explain to them, when we always looked at other schools. If I went to
Mhm.
Country Day, if I went here, if I went there, but
Yeah.
what I realized, once you have the confidence in yourself and you applying yourself and dedicating to a cause and a goal, those factors don't really matter.
Yep.
It's about what you want to do. Because that going to school doesn't guarantee success at all. It's about how much effort you want to put in whatever you're trying to do, and that's what I wanted to relay to the students at the time.
So knowing that and defining success the way that you do now, would you say you're successful now?
No, no. I say I have a long way to go.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I have a long way to go. I have reached some goals, but as you reach
Yeah.
goals, those things
Because it's
kind of
our own measuring stick, right? It's not what somebody
right.
else's success is. Like what it is for me might not be the same for you. So I think that's a really honest answer. Some people might look at you and say, no, you're very successful. From the outside, yeah, that's fine. I'm not taking anything away from you. You know that about me. But
Yeah.
I also understand what you're saying is about what success looks like to me. And I'm not there yet. So I
Right.
feel that. I feel
Right.
that and I appreciate that.
So, as
So
always, sorry.
go ahead. No, go
No.
ahead.
I said for me, you always, once you reach one goal, you add new goals and you add new
Mhm.
goals. Because how big those goals is, you just have to go after them.
Yeah.
And it will come true. It may not be tomorrow, but it will be over the next 5 years, possibly.
Yeah. So what are your goals for the rest of this year? Because we're almost done. We're almost done. You know what? Tell me your goal, and I'm gonna tell you what my goal is for this month. So tell me what your
Right.
goals are. What are you hoping for? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the present because you're doing some things right now, and I know that you are transitioning. Although that you love the field that you're in, you love helping other people. You're gifted at it. You'll continue to do that. I know that you're working on some other things, so I want to hear about this.
Yeah. So my goal is to get in more into public speaking,
Yeah.
and work in that area, especially inspiring young kids to believe in themselves, be more of a motivational that you can do whatever you achieve, whatever you want in life to achieve, you can do it, and there's
That's
really
right.
nothing stopping you but you. And that's the main message I definitely want to relate to a lot of kids and adults. We always had these roadblocks in life. We figure out I can't do this because of this, but
Yeah.
those things you put in front of yourself are not real roadblocks.
That's right.
Most times it's fear. It's fear to step out there.
Mm.
It's fear to go,
Yeah.
to move forward. And the greatest excuse to hold you back is fear. You know, I can
Yeah.
find 10,000 reasons why I can't do something. And like I said, I go back to my coach, Vincent Parks. He put so much confidence in you in playing football. You can believe you can run through a brick wall. And that's one thing, that mentality you have to just translate it over. It said, I can get through this stuff because it's nothing to me. And I think come from e-course too. I feel like since I made from e-course, anything else I went through in life was pretty much easy. It was like, oh, this is nothing. When
Yeah.
most people say, let's go back. So when I applied to medical school, I was rejected a few times. One time by different schools. Most people I seen break down, like they couldn't take it. And they had, to me, it wasn't a big deal because things that I went through growing up in e-course wasn't as bad as someone telling me no, because someone's gonna always tell me no
Mm.
about something. So it wasn't as bad. So it was a lot of character building coming from my neighborhood also. So, um, and I
And
think that's for a lot of young.
that character building is huge too. Like you need some of those obstacles. Sometimes you need even those failures, right? Because humility is a mother and will teach you a lot.
Mhm.
And
Right.
yeah, I like that you said that too, because all of that is true. And I like what you said about fear. And I just want to pause a second because this is such a good conversation. We've been going on that I forgot to say hello,
Yeah.
everyone, again. If you're just not joining us, thank you so much. This is such a great conversation. And I'm so honored to have Dr. Teronto Robinson here, really talking about what it was like for him to transition from being like this failing student to a physician and really what that was like for him. So thank you for being here. If you're just joining us, make sure that you put a comment in the box. Let us know where you're from. And if you're from eCourse, we love you and want to hear from you especially.
Mhm.
So something else too, we talked about you transitioning, right, and wanting to be a speaker, a keynote speaker, right, and not even
Yeah.
wanting to be, you're already that, you're already doing that.
Yes.
um, and that kind of happened by accident too, right? And I understand that because you and I were talking about commencement speeches, and I said I dropped out of college twice, right? I
Hmm.
was a terrible student. Again, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I was wasting a lot of money that was not my money to waste. Um,
Right.
I mean, I was. I'm telling you, if my parents knew, let me tell you what the kind of classes I was taking. Let's go back.
Yeah.
I was taking astronomy. I was
Yeah.
taking rock climbing. I was taking yoga. I was taking photography. because I wanted to do things that fed my soul. I was taking a lot of writing classes, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew the things that made me happy.
Mm-hmm.
So when I dropped out, the last time I was over at U of M, I was at U of M Dearborn, and I just went to work. I had to work, man. I had to work. And I did not have time to really be messing around trying to figure out what I wanted to do and spending money at U of M. That was now my money. It wasn't my dad's money. It wasn't grant money. It was my money, right? I'm out. I
Yeah.
don't have time for this. I have a family. We had kids, but at the same time, I was working in education. I was a school operations manager. And when you talk about mentorship and you talk about character building, those years before I graduated and going back to U of M were really pivotal for me because I was working with such an amazing group of administrators who were really pouring into me. When they were also pouring into high school kids, they were pouring into me, and I don't think they knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So the entire time I was working there, all I thought about was finishing school and how I wanted to go back, and how now I knew that I wanted to do something in the communications field that was really important to me. I wanted to be able to express myself and be able to help other people to express themselves, especially in the workplace. And so when I did go back, I took it very seriously. And I was not at the top of my class, um, but I was serious about it, and so serious about it that literally 2 days before they were figuring out who was going to be the commencement speaker, my guidance counselor, my college counselor, reached out to me and said, "You have such an amazing story about how you came back." I was 38 then, and how you
Mm-hmm.
finished school. We want you to be able to tell that from the stage. So, like, with one day to go, I had to like put out this speech about what it was like for me. And that was the first time anybody had asked me what my experience was like. And so I
Wow.
became an accidental keynote too, just by sharing what that was like for me, being the oldest person. Like, I was older than a couple of my instructors at the time. And
Wow.
just talk about character building, talk about humility.
Right.
um, I like to speak on that now. And that's not something that I ever said I wanted to do. I want to be a speaker. No, I always wanted to be a writer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing now to make sure that you're broadening those opportunities for speaking? I know you said you love to talk to high school students, but I'm telling you, I think it's so important to also talk to not just high school students, but college students. And again, I'm telling you, I was in my 30s, in my late 30s when I went back. When I watched your commencement to e-course, that resonated with me, even though you were talking to high school students. So tell me how
Yeah.
you're going to broaden this and what you're doing.
Well, I'm work on. I haven't really done it because of COVID. We kind of slowed things out. I had a
Yeah.
engagement for this year from last year to do a commencement speech, but things got put on hold due to COVID. So I really can be kind of stagnant at this point in time. But we will have some more content coming out soon.
Good.
I will have a Instagram platform,
Mm.
and I probably do more just encouraging, motivational dialogue um, with my audience.
Yeah. That's nice. I know
Yeah.
you'll be able to do that too, because
So
again,
the funny part about it, we was talking about doing commencement speech.
mhm.
I think it was in 2017. The school had asked me to get a commencement speech then, and I declined because I just feel I wasn't ready for it. I was like, it wasn't
Mm.
the time. It was. I ended up giving it like speaking at my coach's Vincent Park's funeral, and
Mm.
I was sharing some stories about him building us to be strong men
Mm.
and ready for life. And the principal came to ask me at that time, but it was just too soon for me. So the
Yeah.
following year, um, I said I would do it. I was ready to go.
So
Um,
sometimes when you talked about fear, right?
yeah.
Sometimes that fear keeping us stuck. Um, so you felt like you weren't ready, but part of that was probably fear talking too. Is that right? What do you think?
No, no. I want to be able to give my best. And that's the
Okay,
whole
that's
thing.
real.
When I wrote my commencement speech, I wanted to put the time into it, the thought into it, and put my heart into it. Not something I was going to scribble down on paper.
Yeah.
And I thought the best approach would be, when I had a chance to sit back and think about it, was be open and honest about my experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's what spoke to me, and that's what spoke to, hopefully it spoke to some kids in the
Yeah.
audience. But it's not letting them know it's not where you start, it's how you finish it.
That's right. And I would go out on a limb to say that it wasn't just good for the kids, but those kids had parents who were sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and who knows? Because again, I'm telling you, when those administrators, um, when the principal and the vice principal and these folks in the school that I was working for, when they were talking to the kids, they were talking to me too. So
Mm-hmm.
keep doing what you're doing. I think it's so important. And I'm proud to know you. I'm glad to know you.
I'm proud to
Um,
know you. It's like, wow, it's just so amazing. We talk about, we sit back and talk to a few people that's from eCourse that, sort of, we kind of feel like, sort of made it, I would say. And it's like, it's a handful, it's a handful that you can really count out of everyone over the last, you know, maybe 10 years. I mean, not from when we graduated,
yeah,
10 years counting back, it's
right.
maybe one or two from each class.
Yeah,
I would say
yeah,
what made it means, or having success, whatever that means to everyone. But
right. Yeah.
yeah.
And to think too, like, I don't know if you have any children, but I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old. And they're in school. I've got a high schooler now, and they are such good students. They're good students. And
Mhm.
I'm very transparent with them about like how I struggled in school and how I wouldn't ask for help and how like I would be like sick to my stomach the night before I knew report cards were coming out. I'm telling you, I was a mess. I
Right.
talked to them. I talked to them about that for several reasons, though. Number one, because I want them to know what their mom and dad's life was like. My mom and dad did not really talk to us about what their lives were like. Like my mom grew up in Florida, and when I tell you I know about this much about her life, I think there's a reason for that, and she's not here, so I can't talk to her about it anymore.
Mhm.
But I just want to be transparent with my kids about like what life was like for me and for their brothers, and their dad talks about what his life is like, and our lives were different, right?
Right.
So I think that that's important. But the other thing that I really want to drive home, especially to my 14-year-old, is that high school is so small. That time is so small. At the time you're in high school, it probably feels like everything to you. Your social groups probably feel like everything to you. If you don't have social groups, that probably feels like everything to you. But let me tell you, you won't even see these people most of them when you leave.
Right.
So
Life
be,
takes over.
go ahead.
I was saying life takes over, and you got to plan your life. You're not worrying about theirs.
That's right. That's right. And those people who were good to you in high school, those friends who you had, you cling to them. Some of my best friends have been friends that I've known since elementary school, since middle school.
Mhm.
Um, and that means something to me. Like friendships are really important to me. And so when we talk about character building and you talk about getting over fears and just having people who really know you that you can be vulnerable with, that's so very important. It is.
Right. And I think the
So
most important thing is also kids have that believe in them. Like I said, my mother, grandmother, they was very, they believed in going to school, getting an education.
yeah,
Um, like my grandmother, she dropped out of high school in 8th grade. Well, she come from Mississippi to go to school, high school here in Ecorse, but she didn't finish past 8th grade.
yeah.
My mother, she went to Ecorse High School Generational also. She graduated, but then I was pretty much first generation.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, so
Yeah. So my mom grew up in Florida, but my dad grew up in Ecorse. And so my
mhm,
dad went to Southwestern for, I think, a year. I think he said maybe a year, but he graduated from Ecorse. But my dad was a bad student. I think people don't know, like, I think that's why it's important to talk about this stuff. My dad was a horrible student. You probably wouldn't know that. He wouldn't tell you that because, he pats himself on his shoulder as he should because he's done well for himself. But my dad failed a grade in high school. My dad did not graduate on time. My dad was very fortunate in that he had two parents who education was important to them, and he went away. He went to the army, and because of that he was able to get some education, and then he got out and he became an engineer. My dad retired from Chrysler, but that's not everybody's story. I understand that.
right.
So
Right.
we have to think about all the barriers that people have, um, and then tell the truth about our own story. That's why I said I think it's really important to talk about how, like, you could come from the same city but have very different upbringings, even, and what education looked like for your family, and all of that stuff is
Mm-hmm.
important. So I want to ask
Right.
you, go ahead. If you had a thought there, you could finish
Yeah,
it.
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm open. Go
So I
ahead.
wanted to transition out and ask you about the future, right? The future of things.
Oh,
So
the future.
do you have any plans, anything that you want to accomplish this year, anything that you're working on, anything that you realized about yourself this year?
um, yeah, yeah. So, for me, I went back to school, working my MBA in
Oh,
healthcare
good.
management. I'm thinking about getting into more in that realm of, in my career in medicine. Um, so those things are on the horizon. So I got a year from now, December, I'll be done in December 2021. So it's a
Uh,
continued process. It's a continued goal. Just personal development myself. Make sure I'm a better person than I was today than I was yesterday. On all fronts, to be a better friend, a bit, more accessible person. All those things to make, my life better. Pretty much
yeah.
when you work on yourself. So.
And I think too, and in making your life better, and really focusing on personal development, which I think is really important too.
Mhm.
um, you can be, like you said, you can be a better friend. You're going to be a better brother, a better son, better in your field. I'm working on those things too. I'm working
Mhm.
on personal development, mainly because I believe in authenticity. I'm going to tell the truth.
Mhm.
I like take on a lot of the stuff that's going around me. And how can you not? Just with the state of everything that's happening in our country, everybody please go vote on Tuesday. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it can be very difficult for me to not get very emotional about what I see happening around me. Um, I'm working on that. I'm working on turning off the TV. I feel obsessed, like I have to know what's going on, but do I really have to know? No, I don't. Not if it will save my mental health, right?
Yes.
So I'm trying to be better about that, like not being so personally um influenced, and again, that's very hard. But to the point where I don't want to be in a relationship with people. Like I'm telling you, I'm Xing people out all the time. I don't want to have nothing to do with you. But that's not always the best approach, and especially for me, for what I do professionally, that's not always the best approach. I
Mhm.
need to be able to hear why people are the way they are, and then if I want to put the hand up to you and be done with you, that's fine. But I need to be able to listen more. And that's difficult for me to do, especially right now. And me listening does not always mean I'm gonna get the benefit of the doubt. I said I'm gonna listen, you know.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
I've been working on really trying to hear what other people have to say about what's going on in our country, and not taking it so personally when I know that this is not somebody that I can work with. And that won't change for me. I talk about all the time how business is very personal for me. I do not separate the two. But I still need to be able, even if I'm not working with somebody, I still need to be able to hear some criticism about what doesn't work for them in our relationship too, because it's not always me saying this isn't going to work for me. Um, so I'm working on that part. I'm working on that this year. Um, professional development as well. I just want to be a happier person. That's who I am at the core anyway. And I
Mhm.
feel like these last 4 years have just really deflated me and really taken a lot of the joy out of just being. I question everybody now, and that's not how I used to be. I used to
Right.
be like just a person that gave everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I want to go back to believing the best in people. So that's what I'm working
Mhm.
on. I want to believe the
Right.
best in people.
I think that
So
one of the best ways to do that is, you know, I believe in service. Giving to
yeah,
others.
for sure.
You know,
Hmm.
and once you give it to others, it kind of fills you up.
Yeah,
Especially like a mentoring. You see someone that goes beyond, you know, their goals and their dreams that kind of fills you up because you had a hand in that. Or whether
Yeah.
it's, servicing someone that are in need. I think that also helps with that type of. It kind of helps with not trying to pass the judgment. It
Hmm.
helps with that, because you're there to serve. You're there to
Yeah.
serve, and that's one of the best things that I've taken away so far in life. Is service is better than, having a me first attitude.
Yeah, definitely. And that can only serve you for so long anyway. That's not the kind of person that I am. That's not the kind of person that I want to be. I always strive to be, how can I help? Am I helping? Um,
Right.
and I try to be very cognizant of, am I making myself the core? I don't want to do that. So
Right.
thank you so much for your time today. You got any parting words with the people? Listen, two things I want from you. I want some parting words because I know that you have something uplifting and encouraging to say because you have a
Oh,
servant. And then
okay.
number two, I want you to tell people where they will be able to find you on social media because I know that you're on LinkedIn, which is my
Oh,
favorite platform. Woo, 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 woo. Sorry, Facebook. So tell the people where they can find you.
so my parting words would be: dreams are goals without any vision, and without any goals, they're just dreams.
Mm.
And my LinkedIn page will be coming. Well, I have a LinkedIn page. My Instagram account will be coming soon. It'll be up and transparent with some new content for everyone to access.
Well, come on and give us this good content because you know I'm a reader. I like to see all of it. Thank you
Uh-huh.
so much for being here. I know this isn't our last conversation. Um, I'm glad that there's somebody else from my hometown, somebody else from Ecorse,
Me
that I can
too.
say is
I mean,
doing some really.
it's
Go ahead.
it's plenty of people.
I was just
Unfortunately,
gonna
brother
say that. I was gonna say, go
Andre,
ahead. Yeah.
Andre knows Shannon Kason. He does his podcast thing.
Yes.
I talked to him on a few occasions.
Yes.
He has a great podcast show. I can't get the name of it right now. I have a few of
Homemade
his
stories. It's
mugs and
homemade
stuff around
stories.
here somewhere.
It's homemade stories, and he is
Yeah,
amazing.
homemade
So
stories.
when I was Yes. So this is what I think too. I think there are a lot of people, not just in Ecorse. We're talking about Ecorse because that's where we're from, but I think in the Downriver area, that we just don't know about. So I want those people to reach out to me because I think those stories are really important too. Let me tell you something. Shannon is so amazing. First of all, he's a great
Yeah.
storyteller, but he gave me such a wonderful opportunity last year, to come and host, like a live storytelling event that he was doing here in Wyandotte, and I was so appreciative for that. Um, and I think he graduated with my brothers. So I
Yeah.
don't have anybody that in my immediate class, in class of 97. Hello, shout out to class of 97. Where you at? But I don't think that I have, other than Crystal Nixon. I'm not sure if there are any that I can think of right now, any other business owners, who are out there and who are really trying to give back in some kind of way. And I don't want to ignore them. So if that is you, come shout out, come holler, please, because I want to talk to you.
You know what my
Um,
vision is? My vision is to do
Let me hear
a speakers bureau for the high school.
it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess I want to say those who have deemed to be, what people think. Oh, they made it. They from E-course. They had some level of success. To have a speakers bureau. I think that'd be a great thing to do. And I want to start, alumni commencement speaker series.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's a good
Everyone
idea.
the past, but it'll be for a scholarship fund to help raise money for the following year's class.
Ah,
So you have one person every year who's spoken in the past donate, and we go to that graduation that year. You sit on stage. You may introduce the following person for the next year who's speaking that year. Um, so it'd be great to get that started.
that would be great. So count me in. If you do that, I want to be a part of that. You know what?
Definitely.
Listen, I love that we were able to have this talk. Reformed underachievers.
Reformed underachievers. Yes, yes. Not
1.8. I'm pretty sure. I think I had a 1.8 when I graduated. I was definitely at the bottom. Definitely.
2.24. I remember that vividly. See, the problem, like, I hate to say this, and I don't want to give an indictment on a lot of people. Like I said, they kind of put you in a box and they kind of sum you up, you know. And I was one of the students who said, hey, I went to my English professor, hey, I need help, you know, get away from your playing. Go to my, you know, counselor, hey, I want to go to college. You're not serious, right?
Mm,
So they make you had to find your own way. And, you know, being young, you're like, oh, whatever, you know, you say, oh, whatever, you know.
yeah.
And I think they did a big disservice and said, if you're really serious, let me sit you down. This is what we can do for you. But they took out the ones who they thought were going to be successful or they thought was going to have success, the high GPAs, which likely they were. But again, they had a motivation or the dedication or, you know, the vision to go forward with it, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really important for people to know that, like you said, success looks different for everybody. And
Yes.
it might not have started out and looked the way you thought it was going to look in the beginning. For sure.
Right, right,
For sure.
right, right,
For sure.
right.
So thank you so
So
much for being here. I know we'll be in touch. Listen, everybody, if you tuned in for us, whether you're on LinkedIn or you're on Facebook, please make sure you're following my pages, Maximum Communications. I do this every Sunday. It's YouTube Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love this part of my week. It really encourages me. I hope it encourages you to get out there and vote. And if you don't vote, don't
yes,
come in my
vote.
inbox talk to me because I know what some of y'all do. You come in my inbox. Don't come in my inbox. It's closed to you. Go vote, and we can talk about it
Go vote.
afterwards. That's right.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be on here with be on here with you. It was great experience, and thank you again.
You're welcome. I absolutely appreciate you. And I'll talk to you soon. Next
All
time,
right,
everybody. Thank you.
bye. Thank you.